Okay. Here we are again, guys. Okay, this is, well, I think one of the few left English sessions in the conference. Well, some people are joining. Okay, welcome everybody. Again, I wonder that where everybody is from. Okay, there are some Botswana. Oh, anyone else from somewhere else? We have this really great speakers from Ghana, Cleopatra. She's here. Where are you guys from? KSA, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Zimbabwe.
Yay! Very safe.
Okay, so everyone's welcomed. And I would say this session is quite special. How come? Because it's not just about PMO, really. So we've been talking about how to implement the functions from the previous sessions. And in the panelists, we talk about how to build a successful PMO. But this time, we're going to talk what's very, very essential for your organization and business as well is how to transform your PMO into a profit center. So basically, your company always wants to make money, and we want to learn this from Cleopatra. She's from Ghana, and she has over 18 years of experience as a project, program, and change managers globally. So let's welcome Cleo.
Thank you so much, Freya. So here we are, a week after International PMO Day and just 3 days away from Africa Day. So very, very excited to be with you all today. I am connecting with you from Ghana. I'm from Tanzania and Zimbabwe and living in Ghana. So I'm very excited to see that there are people from home on the call, and also let us know, everybody else, where you are joining from within Africa and abroad today. So those are my credentials. I think Freya already did justice to my introduction. So I am a leader at Africa Change Emporium in Ghana, and also as authorized business partner and instructor for the PMO Global Institute. So working with PMOs to set up for the first time, working with PMOs to optimize their processes, their governance, and their tools, and really building more PMOs within Africa. So what are we focusing on today? A little bit about PMO and its potential in Africa. And what is a profitable PMO? Because we all know it as a cost center. So what are some of the things that we can consider configuring within our PMO so that we can contribute towards the bottom line within organizations? And how do we then shift from being a cost center to become a benefit generating PMO? So Africa is rising. Wherever you look in Africa right now, whether you're in North, East, West, South, or Central Africa, transformation is on the rise. There are mega projects being implemented across the continent to modernize, digitize, and transform Africa within the energy, oil, and gas sector, within infrastructure, engineering, construction, health sector. Every sector you look, there is transformation happening, and millions and billions of dollars are being pumped into driving these transformation initiatives to ensure that Africa grows, to ensure that it meets our GDP targets at different country levels, to ensure that we're part of the broader growing world economy. And over 2.8 billion has been invested in digital projects across sub-Saharan Africa, across the World Bank, over the last 10 years. So Africa is really a melting pot of transformation right now. It is a calabash of opportunities when it comes to transformation. Yet we have some challenges, right? Some of these are at a continental level, and some are experienced and observed at a global level. We all know the statistic of 70% of projects that fail to meet their strategic objectives. Over several multi-billion projects in Africa are also planned, but fail to start. I'm sure some of us have been project managers or program managers on projects that, had a ribbon cutting ceremony and suddenly that was the end of the project. It didn't go past the feasibility stage, or it stopped the planning stage, or it stopped the designing stage. So over 84 million US dollars is lost on projects and programs within Africa due to poor project performance across our continent. Globally, approx 122 million US is wastage due to poor project management for every $1 billion spent on projects. When it comes to digital projects, 1 in 6 IT projects have a cost overrun of over 200%. And where are PMOs? PMOs are at the driving seat of these projects within our continent. So we find that we have challenges that PMOs face, and some of our PMOs, unfortunately, then close within 3 years of being set up. And why is this? Because of these challenges that we encounter, and how can we then demonstrate the value that PMOs have so that we become sustainable? And how do we make these project investments that are ongoing across our continent profitable for the benefit of our continents? If we look at the infrastructure perspective, there's a paradox there as well. You find that a lot of infrastructure projects, according to McKinsey report, fail to meet financial close. So in the feasibility phase, a lot of money is being pumped across the continent, through PPPs and other initiatives to really drive infrastructure. But post-feasibility, they fail to progress. 80% of those projects drop off post-feasibility. And by the time they're trying to progress, it is only a small amount of those projects that initially had feasibility studies undertaken that can actually, be operationalized. And why is this? Because of typical challenges we have on our continent. Probably it's rushed feasibility studies, delays in getting the necessary licenses, approvals, permits, poor program delivery, and what we like to call political interference, right, within our continent. So this is the challenge we have within Africa. There are also other challenges that attribute to these high failure rates and high plummeting costs, such as attempting to run too many projects at the same time. I think some of the other speakers spoke about training, getting the right skills and certifications for our project managers, our PMOs, and for our project sponsors, really educating our project sponsors on the various roles that they have to play. Lack of change management, human change management. That has also been touched on in earlier sessions today. How do we integrate this into our project and program baselines so that we drive adoption better within our implementations? Insufficient software within PMOs. A lot of PMOs are still using Excel within our continent. So how can we get digital so that we are able to work faster and smarter? Decision latency as well. When leadership drags out decision-making processes, this affects, of course, our ability to be on time, on schedule, and the overall success rates, which may lead to extra costs on our projects. Also, we find challenges about not having sufficient methodologies for how we deliver projects. You may have one PMO running 10 to 20 projects, but all those projects are following different methodologies. And how do we, address these challenges within our PMOs? So the pressure is on for PMOs all over our continents. There is pressure for us to ensure that post-implementation, there is an upward trajectory of productivity in the organization, an upward trajectory of the business value, the bottom line, the results. How do we address eroding margins that eat away at project profitability? There is pressure for greater velocity in terms of the delivery of our projects and delivery of our strategic outcomes. For the public sector and those that are not for profit, they're also experiencing pressure in terms of minimizing the expenditure that is being done. So how can the PMO contribute towards the profit of our organizations? And as PMOs in Africa, I would like us to have a challenge and a campaign after this conference that how can we promote zero tolerance to project failure in Africa, and how can we together shift the perception of PMOs in Africa from being cost centers or lost centers to being now embraced and valued as strategic partners and as revenue or profit centers. By now, I'm sure you can see I love elephants, right? So this is an elephant in the conference room when we're talking about profitability, and an uncomfortable topic, but I would like to know from you, what percentage of your programs and portfolios, if you reflect on everything you are managing right now in your organization or institution, what percentage would you say are actually profitable? Is this something that you are measuring at the moment? Feel free to go ahead and share your reflections and opinions in the chat. So most businesses are in the business of making money. So most businesses are working on the triple bottom line expectations. And one of those bottom lines, of course, is the economic bottom line, which is the profit motive. For those that are not being driven by profit, of course, they are then being driven by the need to have an impact or by ESG kind of indicators, etc. So if your business has the profit motive, therefore, your PMO has been set up to drive those profits through the delivery of your projects, programs, and portfolios to ensure that those strategic outcomes are actually realized. I think the last panel touched on this in the closure, talking about how do you demonstrate the dollars and cents that the PMO is actually then contributing towards the organization. So PMOs can facilitate making money through the delivery of more successful projects. So, what is a profitable PMO, right? How can a PMO be a profit center? Before we progress, I know you're thinking, this is Africa, right? We have all heard the saying TIA, this is Africa. Nobody knows Africa like we do, right? So how can we have profitable PMOs within the context of our Africa that we know how things operate? So we're going to do a quick poll. So I'll stop sharing my screen after a second so that we can do the poll. But before we do, let me just walk you through the operating models of PMOs in Africa. If we imagine that Africa is a highway, your major highway, your N1 or whatever you have in your country, and we are driving down the highway of PMOs in Africa. We have different models of PMO delivery. So we have the Datsun 120Y. This is not to say you are the outdated PMOs, but it's more the traditional PMOs. These are PMOs that are using tried and tested processes and frameworks. They have the basics that is needed to get the PMO up and running. They've put the standardization in place, and you have sufficient traction in terms of the journey that you're trying to deliver your projects and programs. Then we have the PMOs that follow the mentality of one size fits all. I think we all have this method of transport within Africa. You may call it different things, dala dala, your matatu, your trotro, depending on where you are. These types of PMOs are ready to take on any projects as required by the different stakeholders. Any leader that is requesting you to start a new project, hop on. We will deliver this project before the end of the FY. So everybody can jump on this bus and have a project. And we have more than 100 projects running because we can accommodate everybody's needs. So prioritization can be a bit of a challenge within these PMOs, right? Then we have the agile PMO, the hybrid PMO, the sustainable PMO, the futuristic PMO. This is the Maserati, right? It is a smart PMO. It is AI-enabled PMO. It is data-driven. It is leveraging big data, right? Then we have the fast and furious. We call them the boda boda, right? Motorbikes, right? These types of PMOs are just in a rush to deliver. Everything is about deadlines because our stakeholder said we must launch on this particular date. So the date is a non-negotiable, regardless of the risks that we have in place, regardless of any quality issues that we face along the way, the date cannot be moved. So these are the fast and furious border type of PMOs that are operating according to delivery dates and not necessarily accommodating other critical project success factors. Then we have those that are highly ambitious PMOs, but unfortunately they are overwhelmed because they do not have the capacity. So these are your tuk-tuks, or in East Africa we call it the Bajaj, right? So these types of PMOs are small PMOs. Your PMO only has 1 or 2 or 3 people. So how is it possible that you can take on 10 to 15 projects and deliver them within the constraints of the resources that you have? So how does your PMO drive transformation in Africa? I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that Freya, if you can go ahead and publish the poll, and let's have a bit of fun and let's see what type of PMOs we have in the room. So please go ahead and cast your votes. We'll just give it 30 seconds for everybody to contribute. Okay, Freya, would you like to end the poll so that we can see the outcome? Okay, I thought the results would display on the screen, but here we go. We have, oh, there we go. Excellent. We have 5%. Okay, I know people avoided Datsun because they think it's old, but this Datsun could be your sedan, your Toyota Corolla, or anything that is just a traditional car. So Datsun at only 5%. The bus and Dallas are those PMOs that are just taking on anybody's projects and promising to deliver 30%. The border, the fast and furious PMOs that are just rushing to meet deadlines regardless of, pressures for risk or quality. So the winner is Tuk Tuk. Okay, very interesting. So it means we have a lot of PMOs that are, probably small in terms of capacity. And this could be that maybe, PMOs is a growing concept in Africa. So probably your PMOs are in the starting up stage and are still evolving. And with time, then you may get growth. But how do we address those challenges to ensure that we are not overwhelming ourselves and overcommitting and over trying to demonstrate our value, but we don't have the capacity to do that? Okay, thank you, Freya. I will go back and share my screen. One second. Okay, and we are back in business, right? Okay, I hope my screen is still visible. If it's not, Freya, please flag me. Right, okay, see it now. So the bottom line is that bottom line matters, right? And bottom line, as we said before, depending on the sector you're operating in, could mean different things. But if your bottom line is profit driven, then project profitability is key to look at what is the financial gain or the loss on our various projects. What are the margins that we have, and how do we then calculate these? Looking at our revenue, subtracting the costs, other costs, and subtracting our revenue. So bottom line matters, right? So how is it possible that a PMO can be profitable? Because we are cost centers, right? We don't necessarily earn any revenue from sales. So how is it possible that we can be considered to be profitable, right? So yes, it is true, PMOs do not generate their own profits directly. And they can be seen as cost centers because we become very marginalized by additional layers of bureaucracy, oversight, and cost. But instead of merely overseeing projects and managing resources, a PMO can actively generate revenue for the organization. PMOs can help your internal customers generate revenue at the lowest cost to your customers, running your projects at the lowest cost to your PMO, and at a low overall cost to the enterprise. So, is that your objectives when you're setting up your projects or programs, or are you looking for the most expensive solutions? How can we drive the lowest cost across the enterprise? When this is done, then the PMO can actually be seen as a contributor to the overall enterprise profit center. So yes, you are not directly generating profit, but you are a contributor to the enterprise profit center. The consolidated revenues of the enterprise are preserved as much as possible into net profits, and therefore the PMO must contribute the highest possible net margin for the enterprise. If you're a value-centric PMO, then you are looking at how to improve your utilization of resources and how to drive strategic outcomes for your organization. So, to measure is to know. If you cannot measure it, then you cannot improve it. So we need to have some metrics that are quantifiable within our PMO scorecard, right? And this is key. As we were saying in earlier sessions, it's not just about giving a status report about how far are we on the project. We have 50% completion, etc. The leadership, the stakeholders, the board, they are all interested in the bottom line, right? So these are some of the measures that you could put in place to start to quantify your PMO. One thing I want to highlight is the need to have business cases. If you do not have a business case for your projects, there is no point continuing the conversation about contributing towards profits and contributing towards bottom line, because you need to have done a business case for your project right up front, which basically projects the anticipated business outcomes in terms of revenue and profitability that would be expected once the project is in completion, once the project is in production phase. And this is a challenge across Africa, where we have a lot of projects that are just running because a stakeholder said we should start immediately, and there was no time to do the business case, and then we start doing a retro on it when we're just about to go live. So if you can have this as a measure, how many active projects have confirmed business cases, that's a good start. And then also look at annual improvement in terms of the benefits that have been delivered. So in year 1, in year 2, or in month 6, month 12, etc. Then I'm sure we all have the measures for CPI and SPI, so your cost variance and your schedule indicators as well, but we can also include the net present value, the payback period, net operating income, your profitability index or your cost benefit ratio, and earned value management, which I'm sure most PMOs are already having in place, looking at productivity versus the money that has been spent, and looking at the return on investment of those particular projects, but also looking at the profit, the gross profit margin at a project level and also at a PMO level. So it is not to say that you need to have all of these measures. There's no cookie cutter approach. You need to see what is right for your PMO and start with something. So having said that, it is not every PMO that needs to drive profitability. Depending on the reason why your PMO was set up in the organization in the first place will determine whether you can focus on profits or not. So if your PMO is set up just to bring standardization in the organization, that is just going to be a challenge, because once standardization is in place, the value of your PMO is going to be questionable, because they say, well, we have the standardization now, what other value would the PMO bring? So there needs to be more focus in terms of other business outcomes that you're going to be driving. If your PMO was set up just to drive governance and compliance, then looking at profit is not going to be an immediate KPI. If your PMO is a supportive PMO, it means you are just providing ad hoc advice to departments running projects, ad hoc templates as and when they're required. So you're unlikely to be in a position to control the delivery of the projects and therefore to control the strategic outcomes. But if you're running an enterprise PMO, delivery directive, or a value management office, then you're in a better position to be able to start to drive some of this thinking in your organization, because at an enterprise PMO level, then you could have a project selection criteria which looks at the potential for profit that is going to come of that project. If you are a PMO that is focused on delivery, then you are likely then to be concentrating in terms of how to reduce costs and maximize margins for your particular projects and programs. If you are a directive PMO, this means that you are controlling the project resources, making sure that they're the right skills assigned to the right tasks. So you can add a lot of concentration in terms of looking at your deployment of resources and your utilization analysis and how you're going to optimize these resources on your particular projects. And of course, if you're at the level where you consider yourself a value management office, then you're already thinking about investments, initiatives, and projects. But the bottom line is your PMO has to be accepted by the organization. It should be stable in its structure, mature in the services that you offer, and connected to the business strategy. Maturity is also a key indicator. So there are different levels of PMO maturity. I'm sure you'll come across a lot of models during the conference today. So most maturity models have like 4 or 5 layers. So if you are still at the inception stage of your PMO, meaning that you're just starting out or in the evolution stage, it is unlikely that you can then be driving profits, because at this stage you are a cost center. There's a lot of investment that has been pumped in to get your resources in place, to get your structure, to get your technology, to get your procedures in place. So it is only when you get towards the 4th and 5th levels of maturity, where you're a controlled PMO or you already have everything in place and you're now driving constant improvement, that you can then really focus largely on driving profitability. So we also need to take into account that in Africa, we are running complex project supply networks where we have PMOs that have to run projects, programs, and portfolios, but we find that they do not have the core technical skills that they need within the PMO. So we are then having to outsource and recruit consulting firms to deliver this work for us. And 80% of what needs to be done on transformation is going to consulting firms, and those consulting firms then outsource to individual consultants. And guess what? Those individual consultants then outsource further to freelancers and working on Upwork or freelancer.com at a fraction of what you're actually paying them a day. So they are looking at maximizing their profits. But what are you doing as a PMO then to reduce your costs? So the ideal situation is where the PMO can focus in terms of strengthening your core skills internally. If you can get at least 50% or 80% of those technical skills that you need according to your PMO roadmap for the next 3 years or year of delivery of your projects, if you can get those in-house as full-time staff or resources, then that can then reduce your bill in terms of your consulting bill, and help you to deliver the projects at the lowest cost of your organization. So what's the secret sauce then to reducing costs? Your estimation model. How accurate are your cost estimates? How accurate are your schedule estimates? Your forecasting. How often are you reviewing your budgets? Is it being done on a weekly basis, or you wait till the end of the quarter? This is something that can be done weekly. How can we look at scope creep and manage this so that it doesn't erode our project margins? Looking at leveling up your resource capacity planning, looking at real-time utilization analysis, and of course, driving efficiency versus effectiveness. So in summary, the starting point is really to understand the value chain of your organization that you're operating in, and then linking the value streams at the program and portfolio level and prioritizing them. And then you can begin by assessing your PMO success rates. So looking at your projects and portfolios and critically analyzing what has been successful, challenged, or failed, looking at optimizing your costs, so reducing your overheads, improving the efficiency, automating where you can, and outsourcing non-core activities, so outsourcing the peripheral activities, and really demonstrating your PMO financial viability. So through your budgeting, your forecasting, looking at patterns and trends, and driving continuous improvement PMO. As your PMO grows in maturity, then you can become at a point where you can commercialize some of your intellectual property. Let's say your PMO has built best-in-class methodologies, has built, a secret source of your estimation tool that you could then license and sell to other project management offices. And in time, then you can become a strategic partner to the organization where you advise on investment decisions. You're able to conduct feasibility studies, assess project risk, and really recommend how to maximize the resource allocations in order to maximize profitability. So you could market your PMO as a leader within Africa. Share your success stories, share your testimonials, get industry recognition, and attract new initiatives. And AI, we will be talking about digital PMOs later, so I won't talk much about this. But in summary, AI can really help in terms of analyzing project data and giving us indicators in terms of likely schedule and cost baseline slippages or adherence, and really guiding us in terms of which resources can we use because of the track record that AI has picked up of particular resources. So let's implement some of these measures. And change management, I think it's already been touched on today in terms of looking at the human factors, because the more we get people on board, the stakeholders adopting the change, the less likely we are to have resistance and delays on the project. So thank you, asanteni, nyabonga tinotenda, midasepa, shukran, merci, obrigado, gracias.
Wow, Cleo, you got all the language for thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Cleopatra. It was very invaluable, seriously. We have already a little bit over the time, and I think, yeah, maybe we are lucky that there is no Q questions and the Q&A sections for now. So we're all good. Hopefully that it has been very well. It is being very wonderful. So thank you again, Cleopatra, and we still have other sessions coming up soon. So you guys, audience, can have a break and then be ready for the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, and happy Africa Day in advance.
Happy African Day.